I can't believe this. When I had insurance, I could get hit by a bus or catch on fire, you know? And it wouldn't matter. Now I gotta be careful?
Hello everyone, my name is Shrehith. I'm the co-founder of Ditto Insurance, and in today's video, we'll go over some clips regarding insurance from popular TV and movie series and see how real or authentic they are. So let's get started.
Mr. Kanji, I'm sure कि पॉलिसी साइन करते वक्त टर्म्स एंड कंडीशंस तो आपने ठीक से पढ़े ही होंगे।
नहीं, बिल्कुल नहीं। आपके ऑफिसर ने कहा कि जिधर चौकड़ी किया है ना, उधर साइन करो, तो वहां कर दिया मैंने।
How irresponsible you are.
Okay, so obviously this is something that I'm sure most of you have done as well, and it's something very common in the insurance industry. A sales agent will pitch a policy, you'll rarely read the policy terms and conditions. All you'll do is sort of sign on the dotted line and that's about it. And clearly in this case, the claim assessor seemingly speaks to our protagonist, Mr. Kanji, and tells him that it's a very irresponsible thing to do, which is fair. I think it's an obligation on the customers to read the policy document. However, because it's so complicated, it's written in such tiny font, you can make the argument that there needs to be an expert who probably helps people better understand these terms, better understand exclusions, what's covered, what's not covered, etc. So yeah, so Mr. Kanji is somewhat responsible for not going to the policy terms and conditions, but the insurance salespeople are equally responsible for not communicating to Mr. Kanji what's in their policy, right?
क्या हुआ सर?
आपकी जो ये पॉलिसी है, चोरी, आग, फ्रॉड, ऐसी दुर्घटनाओं से आपकी दुकान को इंश्योर करती है।
तो करेक्ट है, वैसे ही निकाली हमने।
एक्ट ऑफ गॉड के अगेंस्ट नहीं।
एक्ट ऑफ गॉड?
Alright, so if you haven't yet watched the movie, oh my god, well, first thing is you have to watch the movie. And in this case, Mr. Kanji's obviously lost his store because of an earthquake, and that's why he's in the insurance company's office and he's trying to make the claim. Unfortunately, he suddenly hears the word act of God and he finds out that the damages will not be covered because of this clause. Now, in reality, most insurance contracts these days do not mention the word act of God at all. In fact, it used to be a thing that act of God was sort of a common staple in most insurance contracts. However, the problem was there is no standard definition of what it constitutes. Usually, what it means is that if there is an event that is outside of human control, say floods, earthquakes, etc., they can be included under the Act of God clause. And if the insurance company says that they will not cover acts of God, you could somehow say that the insurance company has every right to deny the claim. However, the problem is because it's not standardly defined, the insured, in this case Mr. Kanji, would have disputed the claim, stating that there is no explicit mention that earthquake is not covered and earthquake does not come under the Act of God clause itself. So in modern days, you will rarely ever see the Act of God clause. Instead, what you will see is insurance company explicitly stating what they will cover and what they won't cover, and they'll be as specific as possible to avoid any disputes.
I'm so sorry.
सॉरी? अरे व्हाट सॉरी? सर, मेरी पूरी की पूरी कमाई लगी है दुकान पे। मेरा घर तक गिर भी है और आप सॉरी कह रहे हैं?
I know, but आपका क्लेम पास नहीं हो सकता।
Alright, so in this case, obviously, the claim is denied and Mr. Kanji is distraught, as you would expect. Fortunately for Indian consumers, especially if you do not have a commercial establishment and you don't care about property insurance, etc., if you simply have a life and health insurance policy, know that Act of God is not a clause that insurers can use to sort of deny claims. And in most cases, if you're ever injured in natural disaster, etc., it is usually covered. And yeah, so if you have a regular health or life insurance policy, you don't have to worry too much about the Act of God clause because it is covered. Unfortunately for Mr. Kanji, he will eventually realize that the claim will not be paid, and considering he doesn't dispute the claim either, yeah, it's sort of an unfortunate situation, I suppose. Alright, so let's watch the second clip.
Benefits lapsed. That's weird. I don't remember being in a movie called Benefits Lapsed.
Okay, it's not a check. They're saying your health insurance expired because you didn't work enough last year.
Let me see that.
All right.
Oh, I can't believe this. This sucks.
Yeah, it does suck because in the US, it's quite possible for you to lose access to corporate health insurance because you haven't worked a number of minimum hours. Fortunately for Indian employees, this is not applicable. So long as you are a full-time employee, you will likely have insurance coverage that your employer provides, and they cannot cancel it just because you did not work a certain number of hours, unless you were terminated, of course. If you were fired from your job or if you resigned from the job, you may no longer have have access to the corporate health insurance coverage. And while some insurance companies offer you the opportunity to shift to a retail plan, that option may not always be accessible. So we usually tell people that even if you're covered under corporate health insurance, it always makes sense to buy a retail policy. So let's continue this clip now.
When I had insurance, I could get hit by a bus or catch on fire, you know? And it wouldn't matter. Now I gotta be careful?
That's actually not true, right? Joey says even if he got hit by a bus willingly and if he set himself on fire, insurance would cover it. Most health insurance policies do not cover self-inflicted harm. If you were cutting yourself, or if you set yourself on fire, or if you stood in front of a moving bus willingly, health insurance companies can state that this was self-inflicted injury and they can deny the claim. In fact, Indian health insurance policies do not cover such use cases. The only exception I could find is that if it was proven that the self-inflicted injury was a function of, say, something like a mental health illness, etc., then maybe you can dispute the claim, but otherwise, no, health insurance companies do not provide coverage for such situations. However, life insurance companies, so if you have a term insurance plan, say if you decide to end your life, there is a provision that insurance companies apply. So they cover suicides after the first year, but within those first year, they may not cover it, but afterwards, they will cover those use cases as well. So it's a bit different for health and term insurance policies. So yeah, please beware if you're trying to set yourself on fire. All right, that's all the time we have for today. Hopefully we can do more of this stuff. Until then, happy insurance hunting.